Uh, I believe this is an important topic. Knowing this, that a lot of us pass through different phases in our life, and in a particular daily life, where we see that events, sometimes our workplace events, sometimes events related to our social life, they impact our psychological well-being, and that ultimately impacts our performance, not at our workplace but also in our social or family life. So from that perspective, I believe this is an important topic, and we should be talking about these things more often. Quickly introduce myself. I'm Dr. Abdul Karim Khan from College of Economics and Business. Uh, I work there as an associate professor, and I'm also looking after Doctoral of Business Administration program. I'm a PhD in organizational psychology and human resource management. I did my PhD from Aix-Marseille University in France back in 2010. My core research areas are related to emotions at workplace, knowledge hiding, leadership, and these kind of micro level uh, organizational behavior issues. Okay, moving on. Uh, Now, what we are going to do during these 90 minutes, first, I am going to give a brief overview. Rather, I'm going to ask you that what do you think, what keeps us happy? Uh, and because, all of us have some understanding of this question based on conventional wisdom, based on our common understanding. And then we'll try to link it back to what science says. What are the studies in psychology? What are the studies in organizational behavior field? What those studies suggest that what keeps us happy. Uh, then we will move on to, and we will look at what are the three spheres of happiness which play a role in overall happiness or in psychological well-being. And then next, we are going to talk about these three spheres. To me, these three spheres are our work life, our social life, and our inner self. So then we are going to talk about concrete techniques, which probably we may use in each one of these spheres to try to boost our happiness, to try to draw meaningful experiences from each one of these spheres. And then at the end, I'll just sum these up by talking about key takeaways. And at the end, I would be more than happy to take any questions from your side. Would be happy to answer those. Okay. Okay, now I think let's quickly do a poll here. I'm just going to copy this link in the chat window, the Google form link. So what you guys can do, you can go and fill this survey. There's a single question which is related to that: what is the ultimate goal in your life? Just look for the chat window. Okay, so this is a Google form which just have one question. It is anonymous, so your identity will not be disclosed. There's one question, that what is ultimate goal in your life? Just go and fill this out, and then we'll talk about more about this. 1 minute, okay? Please go ahead.
Doctor, Dr. Abdul Karim, you hear me?
Dr. Abdul Karim, I think someone has a notice or a question. Do you hear us?
So far, I have 9 responses. So we have 14 participants here. Can you please just speed up those who are still doing it?
Guys, can you hear me? Can you hear my mic? Can you please confirm in the chat? I
Yes,
think
I
Dr.
can
Abdul
hear.
Karim doesn't hear us.
I can hear you.
Okay, okay.
Actually, I think I'm not the host. It's Abdurrahman. Can you please unmute the mic of participants so that they can control uh, the mic by themselves? Great, thank you. Okay, so far I have I think 11 responses, and I think we can go ahead with this. Okay, so the question which I asked yourself, again, let me go back to the survey uh, result, and then we can talk about more about this. Okay, if you look here, can you please see the screen? Okay. So the question was, what is ultimate goal in life? And you can see that 63% of the respondents, they have said that their goal in life is like others. So because I didn't ask them to specify, so we don't know what might be the other goals. Probably we can talk about this towards the end of the session. And the other 3 questions was to earn money, to become famous, to rise to the top level in organizational hierarchy. So we can say that the still 27% of people, they have a goal to grow in their professional career. 9.1% they had a goal to become famous, and 63.6% they had some other goals which are not mentioned in the list. Because this is a small sample and this is a very specific sample, which means people or students who are in higher education, pursuing their high education studies. But let me talk about this issue, in a general way. And based on that, once we ask people that what are their goals, what is the typical response we get? Let me try to share the screen. Yeah. Okay. Uh, when people were asked in a recent survey that was done, worldwide, that what is your ultimate goal in life, typically we come across 3 type of responses. Some of them, usually say that their goal in life is to earn a lot of money, because common belief is that money like once you have more money, you would be more happier. Because with money, the underlying assumption is you can buy, all those privileges through which you can enjoy the life. Some of them said that their goal in life is to become famous, to earn a fame, so that all other people, around them, they know them, they respect them, and that is something which they believe that is the ultimate goal, and that can lead to happiness. And the third is, which you had in the list, that some of them said that their goal in life is to grow in professional career and to reach to the top level in the organization, maybe to become the CEO, chief executive officer of an organization, to become, if you are working in academia, to become the chancellor, vice chancellor of the university, and so on and so forth. For instance, again, a recent survey which I was just talking about, which was done with millennials. Millennials is a generation which was born between 83 and 94. Probably, most of students here belong to this generation, millennials. Now, once they asked millennial that what is the ultimate goal in life, 80%, over 80% said that one of their goals is to become rich, the first goal. And another 50% said that the major goal in life is to earn a fame, to become famous. Because people believe that these are the goals which ultimately lead to happiness. Now, I will link whatever survey we did now and whatever I was talking about now. I would link it back to this next question, that if you have some goals in your life, what do you think, what keeps us happy? Now, this is another a single question, survey. I'm just going to paste the link in the window, and I would like to request you that can each one of you please go and fill this out. Now it's there in the window. Please go ahead, single question, 1 minute. Fill this out, each one of you, and then we'll talk about more about this. Thank you. So the question is, what keeps us happy? You can think from your own perspective. Now try to, while you're responding this question, think about yourself, that what keeps you happy, or what do you generally believe that what can lead to happiness in your case, and then answer the question. So far I have 8 responses. Those of you who have still not filled the survey, please do it as soon as possible. It's just one question. It's not going to take more than maybe 20 seconds. So these are anonymous, so you will not be identified. So please be authentic in your responses. So last 10 seconds, and then I'm going to talk about the poll results. Okay. Let me share my screen to show you the results. Now, so far we only have like 10 individuals who filled the survey out of 15. And options which were given to you were money, social status, quality of relationships, and becoming famous. Now, 70% of the respondents, they said that it's the quality of relationship which keeps us happy. 20% said social status, and 10% they said money. Okay, very well, very well. Let me go back to my slides and then we can talk more about this. Okay, can you see the screen? Can you please see the screen? Yes, okay, great. Okay. Now, as we have seen that we had a variety of responses. I wish we could have met in face-to-face setting. Then we could have discussed that the people who said social status or the people who have said relationships, what is the relation? What is the correlation between having a good relationship and the level of happiness they experience? But we would try to make this remote interaction as meaningful as we could. Okay, now answering this question, that what keeps us happy, because if you ask, as I just mentioned, that once you ask generally people, you don't hear this answer, quality of relationship. Most of the time people say that they for example, it's the money which make people happier. It's, for example, sometimes fame which makes people happier. Now, in order to explore this question, there's a very famous study. The name of the study is, Grant and Blusick study. That study is unique in its sense because that study is still continuing, and that study started in somewhere in 1939. So you can see that now it has been almost 80 years that this study is being conducted. The study was conducted by Harvard University, and they are still pursuing the study. The study so far changed. I think now they have their fourth research director. Now, what they did, the ultimate goal of this study was to find that what our different phases of life, because as a human being, there are different things which make us happy at different stages in the life. For example, once we are a younger kid, probably the toys are the things which make us more happy, the candies, the chocolates. Once we are in adulthood, probably it's sports, friendship, these kind of things. Then once we move into professional career, we see a different sort of things which which attract us, or from which we tend to draw happiness. So we see that as people move on in their lives, in different stages of their life, there are different things which keep them happy and which keep them going on, motivated. So the ultimate purpose of this study was that what are the things, or what are the factors in early ages of our life that keeps us happy once we grow old. So what they did, they followed 268 Harvard sophomore students, and they have been following them over last 80 years to see that what is the level of happiness, what are the factors which predict happiness when people are in their 80s, in terms of their age. Now, if you look at the findings of this study, now what are the major findings? And somehow the findings, go against what the conventional or the common wisdom says. The first finding of the study says it's the close relationships more than money or fame that are what keep people happy throughout their lives. Now, let me mention one more thing here, that once this research team, they were pursuing these 268 people, graduates. Some of them are these respondents or the study participants are still alive, and they are in their 90s. they had access to each aspect of their life, their social life, their health records, their medical histories, their income level, and so on and so forth. So based on that, this is what they proposed. And this is what the major finding they come up with, that it's the close relationships more than money or fame which keep people happy throughout their lives. So this was the first finding. Second finding is it's not only the number of relationships, it's the quality of relationship, which means people level of satisfaction with their relationship at age of 50 was a better predictor of physical health than their cholesterol levels, than their other medical conditions. So how satisfied they were with their relationship while they were at their age of 50 determine how happier they would be once they are in their 80s. And the third thing are the people, and this is a very important finding, the people who had happy marriages, uh, they reported in their 80s more happiness, and they reported that their mood did not suffer on the days when they had more physical pain. And those who had unhappy marriages in their 50s or 40s, they felt both more emotional and physical pain. So the key takeaway is that you have to choose your partner wisely, so that if you want to be happy in your later life, in your old age, you should have a happy marriage, happy relationship while you are in your 50s and 40s. So, and another finding, because as I just mentioned that they had access to their medical records, and what they found that the good relationships do not only protect the bodies, but the people who are in good relationships, they their probability of this Alzheimer disease, a probability of memory loss, and the other things, those were very rare on those individuals who had good relationship throughout their life. So from this, what we can, based on the finding of this study, because this is a scientific study, this is not what I'm telling you based on my common sense, that this study is talking about relationship, and relationship. So if we develop some good quality relationships in our life, that is ultimately going to result in like that we are going to drive more happiness and more psychological well-being from these relationships. Okay, so that was the first part, where we just try to see based on the scientific finding that what makes people happy. Now, if we look typically, we have three spheres of our life which can impact our psychological well-being or happiness. Now, these three spheres are, the first one is our work life, because each one of us spend almost 1/3 of our time, in our work life, in organizations in which we work. So 1/3 of our time is spent in organizations, is spent with people who are related to our work. So that, can impact our happiness. That definitely impacts our happiness and well-being, and ultimately it has a spillover effect on our social life as well. For example, if you are in good mood at your work, most likely you are going to carry those good feelings or good emotions once you go back to your home, once you are talking to your children, and the vice versa as well. Now, if you are upset in your social life, that is ultimately going to impact your work life as well. So the second sphere is our social life, which means the time we spend outside the work organization, the time we spend at our home, the time we spend with our friends, the time we spend with our kids, spouse, so on. And the third sphere to me is our inner self. Our inner self is, for instance, what type of person I am, what is my personality type, what are my career goals. Am I a person who gets upset on little things? Am I a person who is very ambitious, and when my ambitions are not achieved, I get upset? So all these kind of questions are related to our inner self, that what am I? How am I playing role in driving my own happiness? So we are going to talk about these three spheres of happiness in more detail, in more details on the next slides. Now, first we'll talk about the work life. And we'll try to see that how we can drive happiness from each sphere, how we can manage our life in each one of these spheres so that ultimately we end up in living a more happy and meaningful life. So let us start with work life. Now, work life, we'll try to see that how can we create a positive work experiences, because the assumption is that if we create a positive work experiences, that's ultimately going to lead us to the route of happiness. So for instance, if I asked you this question, that how is your job, how is your work, or how is your university, for instance, if you're working in a university, if you're a student, now most likely, if you ask this question from people, most of the time, people saying that my job is not good. My job is, it's very like annoying. Uh, I have colleagues who are very, troublesome. I have colleagues who are not cooperative. My supervisor, it might be your PhD supervisor. It might be he or she might be your, a work supervisor. He or she is not a cooperative person. So sometimes we hear these kind of things, that my supervisor is a tough person, my colleagues are not helpful, my university or my workplace is hostile. Now, the question comes, if we have, because we don't have control on these things. We don't have control in a sense that we cannot change our supervisor, okay? My supervisor is a cranky person, probably I cannot change him. I have very little control on this. If my colleagues are not helpful, if I have trouble, some people working in the lab, if I have some troublesome individuals working around me, I have a very little control to to change those, or to uh, uh, or to move away from them. Now, despite all these constraints, now the question comes, that can we still drive positive experiences from our work life despite all these constraints? Now, if sometime when I ask this question to people, some of them say no, because this is beyond our hands, this is beyond our control, and we can't do much about this. But contrary to this, very strong belief, I think as a human being, we have a tremendous power on our work lives, which means there are some techniques, some psychological maneuverings which we can do to drive positive experiences from our work life. Now, I'm going to talk about three concrete research-based tricks, which probably all of us, including myself, and sometimes I do this, all of us can try those out and see that what impact it may have on our level of happiness, our level of satisfaction with the work we are doing, meaningfulness we are driving from the work, and so on and so forth. So let's talk about these three tricks. Okay. Now, trick number one is 3 good things exercise. Now, what's the idea behind these 3 good things exercise? Now, for instance, no matter how bad, how horrible your work life is, how horrible your organization is, how horrible your work colleagues are, we still find good things happening at workplace. And again, this is supported by research that the good things happen 3 to 5 times more frequently at work than bad things, which means, and if you just close your eyes and you just reflect back, maybe over last week, you can see that probably you can still find a lot of good things which happened around you at your workplace. So, which means that there is no, dearth of good things happening at workplace. And you might have heard this phrase, this effect that bad is stronger than good, which means a bad thing has 5 to 10 times the impact, strong impact on our mood as compared to a good thing. So the idea is that if we try to recall the bad things, that bad effect is going to amplified in a way that it's going to impact us, in a more stronger ways, because the bad thing has a huge impact. The negative events have a huge impact on our well-being as compared to the positive events. So the idea is, if we want to move away from the negative events, we tend to focus more on the positive events, on the good things which are happening around us. So this is the main idea, or this is the philosophy behind, or psychology behind this 3 good things exercise. Now, how can you do that? Now, for instance, at the end of each workday, take out 15 minutes, just 15 minutes. I'm not asking you more. Take out 15 minutes and write about 3 good things that happened to you today and why those happened. Now, this why question is important. Now, try to write. Okay? Recalling is not sufficient. Once you write a positive experience, that is more long lasting, that stays longer in our brains, and that is going to impact us, like that is a sustained effect which is going to be there for some period of time. So at the end of the day, take out 15 minutes, forget about everything, just reflect back on past 8 hours which you spent at your work, and write about 3 good things that happened to you. Okay? Now, the second thing is, don't keep those things to you. Share those things with your friends, with your workplace friends. Or if you are at your home, share those things with your family, with your kids. This is what happened. Tell them. Now, telling them would further amplify the impact of those 3 good things which happened with you at work. Now, once because you're moving slowly, on a ladder, like first you thought about those 3 things, you reflect back. Second is you have written those 3 things on a piece of paper. In the third level, you are on a third step in the ladder, that you shared those 3 things with family or friends. Now, once you reach the third level, that basically increases the power of the goodness that we get from the work. Now, this is supported by research, and this is the source of the study. If you want to know more about this, just read this paper, which is published in Academy of Management Journal. That is the top tier journal in management field. Plus, if you just search Google Scholar, that 3 good things exercise and work performance or happiness, you will see there has a lot been done on this in the field of medical. In one of the studies, they asked doctors, physicians, nurses, and medical technicians who work in ICUs, because in ICU you have to see patients who are in very critical state. So they applied this technique with them, and what they found, that those nurses, medical technicians, and physicians were in a better frame of mind, and they were more positive, more happier after doing this exercise. So this technique has been used over and over in different fields, and all of those studies report similar results. And what are the results? The results are that when you do this, it results in less stress, fewer physical complaints like muscle tension, headache, fewer mental complaints, and lowered blood pressure. And this is a very strong, technique. Reflecting on three good things, writing them and sharing them with people around us. And that is going to impact. So ultimately, we are the one who are getting benefit from this. So this is trick number one, which we can use to draw, to draw positive or meaningful experiences from our work life. Okay, second, all of us as a human being, we want to make a meaningful progress on our work tasks. Now, if you spend 1 week without having any meaningful progress in your lab, what would happen? You would feel frustrated, you would feel stressed, and you would feel that I am moving in a circle. I am still back to square one. So as a human being, if we are making meaningful progress on our work tasks, that always gives us a sense of pleasure, that always gives us a sense of achievement, that always give us a sense of satisfaction. But if we look around how our work life is structured, okay, now let me ask a question from you here, that does hard working lead to happiness? And we would maybe at the, after 2 slides, we would have answer to this question. So meanwhile, you can think about this question, that does hard working lead to happiness? When I ask my kids that, while they're doing their, homeworks and studying too much and this and that, I ask them that, what do you feel? Do you think that the hardworking lead to happiness? And every time they say, yes, 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 Papa, yes, it leads to happiness. Once while we are doing hard working, we are more happy. I say, okay. But I think the answer to this question is, when we think about this in our work life, answer to this question is no. And the reason why it's no, I'm going to tell you. Now, for instance, while we are at our workplace, our mood fluctuates every day during a daytime. Uh, Sometimes we are in a bad mood, sometimes we are in a good mood, based on things what are happening around. Your supervisor might have given you an unrealistic deadline. That is something, you started feeling frustrated. And when people are not in a good mood, there is ample, research which suggests that when people, like when people work under stress, under stressful conditions, when people perform when they are under influence of negative emotions like frustrations, anger, even sadness, that impacts their performance, because your information processing capability is undermined once you are under influence of bad mood. And once you are in a good mood, your information processing capability, that enhances, which means that you are going to do more in less time. You are going to be probably more creative. You are going to be more, productive. So, uh, uh, so as I just mentioned, that one of the key drivers of pleasant mood at work is making meaningful progress in our work tasks. If you feel that what I'm doing here is meaningful, or I have completed I achieved something today, that is going to impact our mood in a positive way. And if I feel that I have wasted my day, I have not done even a single task what was on my agenda list, that is ultimately going to lead us to a negative mood. Now, the next question is, to what extent our environment supports making meaningful progress on our work tasks? If when I ask this question most of the time from individuals, they say that our environment very little supports making meaningful progress on our work tasks. The reason is that we are bombarded with work. We are bombarded with sometimes we do not finish the earlier thing and we are bombarded with a new thing. We sometimes are working under operational constraints, tight deadlines. Now, all these things, they hinder us from making a meaningful progress on our work tasks. But having said this, it does not mean that we cannot have a meaningful progress on our work tasks. So next I'm going to talk about that how we can make a meaningful progress on our work tasks. And the answer to this question is very simple. And all of us, if we plan our things a better way, we can make a meaningful progress on our work task, which means by the end of the day, once we leave the work, we feel that we have achieved something. So to me, it's all about intentions management. Most of us try to do multitasking, but multitasking is something which is counterproductive because multitasking stops us from completing something because we are doing multiple things and at the end none of the thing is completed. So at the end of the day, when we reflect back on our day performance, we see that we have not completed even a single task. So that is something which probably lead to more stress, more negative feeling, and less happiness. So which means, so this is a very good reference that do happier people work harder from New York Times. If you get time, do read this. So how can we make a meaningful progress in our work life? As I just mentioned that if we are switching back and forth on different tasks, that will not make us feel that we have made a meaningful progress at work. So how we can, stop doing this, or what we can do about this? I think it's all about intentions management. Now, when I say intentions management, it means you need to ask yourself that what is my intention about the next hour of work? What is my intention about the next day? What is my intention about the next week? What I want to achieve? Fix your targets and work on those. And you need to have a focused attention of for next 90 minutes, 60 minutes. Turn off your emails, turn off your WhatsApp, turn off your phone, have a focused attention for 90 minutes, 60 minutes, set your target, and at the end, you will feel that you have achieved something. You will feel meaningfulness. Again, what I mentioned in the previous slide, when we try to do multitasking, when we do not do a proper intention management, when we do not put a focused attention, and when we try to juggle with so many things at one point in time, that ultimately leads to negative work experiences. That ultimately leads to more frustration, more stress. And that is not probably the route we would like to follow. So the ideal thing is you need to ask yourself what I want to achieve and then put focused attention. Do not juggle with so many things at one point in time. And once you achieve something, even if like whatever target you have set for yourself for 2 hours, you have achieved it, you will see that at the end of the 2 hours, you will feel more satisfied, more happy, and you will drive more meaningfulness. So this is trick number 2, that move away from multitasking, move away from trying to do a lot of things at once. So the trick number 3 is helping others at work. Now, that this is again supported by medical research and medical field, that when we help others, there are certain enzymes which our brain, transmits into bloodstream, and those enzymes keep us happy. Those enzymes, results in fewer stress, and those enzymes ultimately, lead to more health benefits. So helping others is a technique which probably we can use at work as well. But most of the time, our work is already about helping others, isn't it? And then why if our work is already about helping others, why we are not drawing a positive benefits from that? And the reason for this is that sometimes we do not reflect back on that experience. And again, this is supported by research that if you are in a bad mood due to any negative event which happened around you, and you are in a bad mood, if you help someone, your mood is going to improve. Which means if you are in a bad mood, you would help someone, and that is going to lead to a good mood. Now, as I mentioned, that most of us already have a work which involve helping others, and why we don't get benefit from them. The reason is that we do not take time to reflect that how are we helping others, and we do not take time to connect with the beneficiaries of our work. So if we can do this, that we take our time to think, just to reflect that who is benefiting from my work, it improves our workplace well-being. And this is again supported by research. So taking the time to help others, reflect on how are we helping others, and really connect with them, that is the third technique which probably we can apply in our work life to draw a positive or a meaningful work experiences. Okay, so that was the first sphere, which I just talked about, is the work life. Now, the second one is our inner self. Now, when I say inner self involves your strengths, your weaknesses, because you are the one who knows you better. Your self-awareness, your personality type, your belief system, your value system, and so on and so forth. Now, the question is that how can we explore ourselves? There are two aspects to this, and one aspect I'm going to talk about here, and then the other one I'm leaving because we don't have enough time, and I have not planned it for this workshop. So the two aspect is you can know yourself. There are well-established, tools through which you can assess that what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses, what are your trigger points. Tools like, for example, if you want to understand your personality, there are two tools. Big Five personality traits is an online tool, which probably if you just Google Big Five, it will give you a question survey. You fill those, and at the end, the website is going to give you the result that what are your dominant personality or what are your scores on those 5 personality traits. Then we have, this Myers-Briggs Trait Indicator, that is also MBTI, that is again another personality tool, which you can, again, this is online available and also offline available. You can just fill this out and to assess that what are your personality traits. Now that would give you an idea that what kind of person you are, what are your, dominant personality traits, and then, each trait has its own positive and negatives points, or as strengths or weaknesses. And then you can see later on, once you identify yourself, you are more aware, you have more awareness about yourself. You can see that how can you can make an action plan for yourself, and see that how you can overcome those weaknesses, so that those weaknesses do not hinder your career, because ultimately all these things, your career achievements, your work achievements, your achievements in social life, these impact the way we feel. These impact our happiness and psychological well-being. Another thing probably which you can use, and which sometimes I ask my students to do, is the career anchors exercise. Now the career anchors tool is also available online. It's that basically tells you that what type of person you are, and what are the career domains which will keep you more happy and more satisfied. So you can analyze yourself by seeing that what kind of career would keep you more satisfied and happy. We come across in our daily life many times people who switch career but some of them, they started a government job, and later on you saw them switching from a government job and working in an NGO. And when you talk to those people, why you have left those, and they tell you that, that was not my type of job, that was not my type of career. And the reason is that they realized very late. So if you do these kind of exercises very early on, you know yourself, from the beginning, and then you can see that what type of, career choices are more suitable for you. Because if you enter into a career which aligns with your interests, with aligns with your personality types, you are going to excel more in that career, not professionally, also, psychologically. You're going to drive more happiness and more, satisfaction from those careers. uh, and that is an important component of work life as well. But again, it goes back to that our inner self, that who we are and what we want. Another tool which you can use is EQ, emotional intelligence tool. Uh, that can tell you that how emotionally intelligent you are, because the people who are more emotionally intelligent, they, you know, enter into less stressful situations in their life. They can manage their own emotions and emotions of other people who are around them in a more better way. So you can assess your own EQ level, and then you can, work around that to see, and you can prepare an action plan for yourself, and to see that how you can improve the things on which you are lacking. So this is something which probably you can do. I don't have enough time here, otherwise, we could have done one of these exercises, but you do it yourself. Okay. The second thing is probably, which is a self-development tool, or which is something which you can use to explore your inner self, is a framework known as uh, Johari window. Now, Johari window is a self-development framework which was given by two psychologists, I think, back in 1955. The two psychologists who introduced this framework were Joseph Luft and Harrington Ingham. So they just took the first two letter from Joe, and Harry. So that's why it's called Johari window. Now, Johari window, we are going to a little bit talk about here on this slide. Now, this is the Johari window. Now, if you look at this framework, it has two axes, x-axis and the y-axis. Now, on the x-axis, you have things which are known to you. So there might be two possibilities. There are things which are known by self, which are known by you. Now, when I say things mean things about you. Okay, what kind of person you are, what your personality is about, what kind of work you prefer, what kind of career you prefer. It's you who know this. So there are things which are known by you, and at the same time there are things which are unknown by you about your personality. A lot of time we see things which are unknown by us, and sometimes accidentally, sometimes at the end of some experience we realize, oh, I have this personality trait, oh, I have this strength. So two possibilities. There are things on the x-axis which are known by self and unknown by self, and on the y-axis again we have two possibilities, but these are related to others. There are things which are known by others and and there are things which are known by unknown by others. Now, these two dimensional positions on x-axis and y-axis ultimately leads to four quadrant box. Now, this 2x2 matrix or four quadrant box, if you see here, which says number 1, that is the open area. Now, open area are the traits which are known by self and known by others. Now, that is a public knowledge. You know that you are a creative person, and people around you, your colleagues, your work colleagues, people in your family, they know, your spouse, they know that you are a creative person. Now, that is an open area. That is an open knowledge. So this is the first possibility, the number 1. Number two is the blind area. Now, blind area is the one which are known by others, but unknown by you, unknown by self. Now, all of us have blind spots because unintentionally we do certain things and which we do not realize. But the people who are observing us, they have a better knowledge about those blind spots. And sometimes they can tell us, oh, look, Mr. X, Mr. Y, this is, if we like seek feedback, we can get to know about those things which probably we do not know. And number three is the hidden area. Now, hidden area is which is known by self and unknown by others. Now, that is your private self. Now, private self means you know certain things, but you hide it from people around you. The reason being is like there are certain, how to say, there are a certain, apprehensions in our mind due to which we do not share our weaknesses with others, and those weaknesses sometimes become our private knowledge. So that is the hidden area which is known by self and unknown by others. And the last, number four, is unknown area, unexplored territory. Now that unexplored territory or unexplored self is the one that which is unknown by self and unknown by others. Now uh, you can get, now our goal in our lives should be to increase the open area, which means that we should have traits which are known by self and known by others. Now, known by self, why it is important to know you? Because if you know that you have these deficiencies, these weaknesses, you can only work to improve them. So the first step is you need to know them, you need to realize, you need to admit that I have this weakness. Only then you can work on that to improve it. And why it is important that others should know it? Because the strengths and weaknesses, the strengths which you have, if your supervisor know you have this strength, if your organizational boss know that you have this strength, if your friends know that you have this strength, then when an opportunity arises which is corresponding to your skill set, they would be happy, they would be happier to assign you with those opportunities and responsibilities. So if they do not know that you have XYZ strength, then which means that you are going to be deprived of in future, assignments, responsibilities, and things like that. So our goal in our life is to enhance the open area, to make bigger this number one quadrant. Now, how we can increase these open areas? There are three routes to enhancing this open area. Now, the first one is feedback. You can move this open, this line from first quadrant to the second quadrant towards the blind area, or to reduce the blind area by seeking feedback from others. And for that, you should be open to feedback. Now, if you are not open to feedback, your blind spots will stay blind. If someone is trying to give you feedback and you get defensive on that, then next time no one is going to give you feedback. People would, people say, oh, this is, he or she is a difficult person. There's no need to give him or her the feedback because we will, spoil our social relationships. And at the end, that person becomes defensive and not accepts the feedback. So you should be open to and willing to accept the feedback on your blind spots, and you should not be getting defensive. That is the key. So this is how you can enhance this open areas and reduce the blind area, quadrant. The third is the hidden area. How you can move this line down towards the hidden area so that you can reduce the hidden area. And you can tell other that these are the strengths and weaknesses you have, is self-disclosure. Self-disclosure is that you need to admit that, like you need to tell that these are the strengths you have to people around you, and you also need to tell that these are the weaknesses and you need help from them in order to overcome these weaknesses. So again, self-disclosure is important. And the last quadrant, which is the unknown area, which is unknown by you and unknown by others around you, which we call self-discovery path. Now, self-discovery usually happens because, as a human being, sometimes we underestimate our capabilities. And sometimes, once you are given a challenging assignment, probably at first instance, when you look at that, you thought that you won't be able to do this because you don't have the required skill set. But once you enter or you start doing that, you realize that you have all those skill sets which are there, but you didn't know, the people around you didn't know that you had those skill sets. So uh, how we can decrease this unknown number 4 quadrant or unknown self part by pushing our limits, by challenging ourselves, by showing willingness for more challenging, difficult assignments. And that is ultimately that lead us to the path of self-discovery. Now, once we see that we have strengths, we are doing challenging assignments, we have set goals for ourselves, we are seeking feedback. Now, all these things contribute to our inner self. All these things then ultimately lead to more meaningfulness, more happiness, less frustration, and less stress. So apart from the tools which I talked about on the last slide, uh, these are like you can use this Johari window framework as well to increase the open area and reduce the hidden areas, unknown areas, and blind area. Okay. Now, the last part here is the social life, the third sphere of happiness. That how can we draw happiness from our social life? Now, for instance, if we ask this question from you that do we always do things for money? Uh, the answer to this question would be probably that not always. Yes, we do things for money. For example, we work in organizations for money. We exchange sources like we give our knowledge, skills, and in return we get money. Uh, but if we look in our social life sphere, sometimes and sometimes even at workplace as well, we do things we do things which are not really driven by financial motivations. For example, we are helping, we are volunteering for something. Now, all these things are not driven by financial motivations, rather, these are driven by some other motivations. Now, for example, if you ask yourself this question, that why do people donate blood? Do they get money? No, probably they only get, a juice at the end, and not more than that. So, which means that if we reflect back on our choices in life, sometimes we do things uh, not because of the financial motivations, because of other motivations. And when I say other motivations, what might be these other motivations are? For instance, we do things because of social motivations. We do things because of moral obligations or moral motivations. Now, the idea is that once we do things because of moral and social motivations, we feel more satisfied. For example, the satisfaction which you get once you spend a day maybe in helping others, once you spend a day in doing volunteering in some crisis situation, once help someone who is who is a needy person. So all these are the things which give us more meaningfulness in life and more happiness vis-a-vis once we do things because of financial motivation. Now, the key here is, and again, this is supported by, this is supported by evidence and research, that once we try to make people money minded. Once we try to link everything with the money, the level of happiness, the level of meaningfulness, that go down. So keep on doing things what you do because of other motivations, because those are the things which are the ultimately which are the ultimate path towards happiness. Now, what might be some of the tips here? For instance, some of the things which can do in our social life to keep us more, to keep us experience more happiness and keep us experience more meaningfulness. For example, volunteering for different events whenever there is an opportunity. I think we should go for that, and also take out time for things we enjoy. For example, if you enjoy playing music, uh, it shouldn't be like that you should always work in a lab. You should always work on your academic things. uh, Play some music. If you enjoy playing cricket, if you enjoy playing football, do that. Now these activities, we get more energy from that, we get more happiness from that, and that ultimately have a spillover effect on our career goals and career stuff as well. So go for that, go for things which we enjoy. Community engagement is another thing, because this is something which is totally driven by social motivations. There's no financial motivation behind that. So if you are engaging in some activities, community engagement activities, keep on doing that. Pursuing a passion, some people, they have very strong passions about something. So if you are one of those, pursue a passion. And the last thing, which we already talked about, is the relationship building and the quality of relationship which you have around you. So focus on relationship building. If you have some close friends, good friends, that's a blessing. Okay? Enjoy time with them. That is something which ultimately leads to more happiness. Okay, now I'm just going to 2 more minutes, and then I would leave last 10 to 15 minutes for a discussion, for question answers. Uh, so I'm just going to sum up that what we, what we discussed here, what I talked about. Uh, at your workplace, or even in your social life, what you can do to boost your happiness level. The first technique which we discussed while we were talking about the work-life affair is reflect on good things that happen at work. Not reflection is important. Write those down on a piece of paper and share those with people around you. And that is ultimately is going to lead you a more positive state of mind. Second thing, think on how can you structure your work that allows you to make progress. Now, that will ultimately, by this way, you would ultimately end in having a more meaningful progress at your workplace. And that meaningful progress would ultimately lead to more, sense of enjoyment, sense of satisfaction, and so on and so forth. So again, think that how you can structure your work that allows you to make progress. So at the end of the day, once you move out of your lab, once you move out of your classroom, once you move out of your university, uh, you should have something in your head that, wow, today I achieved this thing. Wow, today I finished this thing. Or maybe that might be at the end of a week, at the end of a month. So whatever targets you have set for yourself. So that structuring your work, that is important. The third thing is, we all know that one way or the other, we are helping other people who are at work. So reflect back on those experiences and try to help people in an authentic way. There should not be, any self-interest in that. That should be purely based on pro-social motivations. And once you help people in an authentic way, people who are around you, just reflect back on those experiences and try to connect with them. So these are the three things that we talked about, that how we can draw meaningful positive experiences from our work life. Give importance to quality of relationship. Again, the Grant and Gluisk study, which we talked about, the more quality relationships you have in your life, that ultimately leads to more, happiness, and especially, as once we grow old. Seek feedback. This is related to our inner self. If we are willing to seek feedback from people around you, basically we are going to, that feedback might be positive. So positive feedback motivates us, gives us more, sense of satisfaction, sense of accomplishment. But at the same time, negative feedback. Don't get defensive on negative feedback, and look at the feedback from its constructive purpose and try to improve yourself in the light of feedback. And the sixth thing is open to learning. So we should be open to learning new things. Again, when we learn new things, it gives us sense of, sense of achievement. It gives us a sense of accomplishment, and so on and so forth. Okay, so this is the end from my side. We have 13 more minutes, and I would be happy to answer any questions, discuss it further. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Abdul Karim, for this great workshop. Thank you for the valuable information. Guys, I think you can...
Any questions?
You can unmute your mic and ask questions if you want to.
No questions? Wow, that's good. Okay, so we have a question from Dr. Suzanne. Go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum. Good afternoon, everyone. I would like to thank you, Dr. Abdul Karim, for this valuable webinar. I really enjoyed it.
You know, there's something wrong on my side, or? Sorry, I think my computer is muted.
Hello? Can
Yes,
you hear me
I
now? Okay, this is great, Dr. Abdul Karim. I would like to thank you actually for this valuable webinar. I really enjoyed it, and many new things to me I discovered today, this afternoon. So it's actually not a question, just something I would like to discuss with you about the multitasking. We know that being an educator, working today in our ambitious organizations, we find ourselves actually working in different tasks, if we like it or if we don't like it. So, for example, being engaged in webinars, replying to emails, giving lectures, offering some social events, research, and so much more. How we can focus while we are already in doing so many things. We just would like to hear from you how you are personally doing this.
Okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Suzanne, for your feedback. And I'm glad that you liked the webinar. Now, regarding your question, I totally agree with you that we have so many work pressures and the things are not in our control. But at the same time, we can split. If, for example, there is a bigger task, we can split into subtasks and we can set it for ourselves that today I'm going to do this part. So once you finish or you complete that particular part, that would give you a sense of achievement that you have finished something. So again, the idea is it's not about that we should move away from, or we should try to achieve the complete task in one go. The idea is that we should structure, or we should distribute the task in a way that once we finish first part, we would feel, definitely once we finish that, we would reflect back and we would feel that this is something we have achieved. So this is my take on on your question.
Thank you so much.
Any other comment or question?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, Sabahat.
Hi. Yes, my name's Sabahat, and I'm a PhD student at the university, and I'm looking at the connection between language and emotional expression, and specifically in the context of the second language. I wanted to know what your thoughts were as far as how language interferes with the expression of emotions, or how, or if it does.
Sabahat, this is this is not my research area, but if I think
I saw that. Yeah, I saw that you're in the School of Business. Yes, I saw that. Yes.
Yeah. But if you ask me, because I'm working on some themes which are related to this like which are related to this broader psychological principles. I think language does have influence on your emotional expression, and especially because in your native language you can express, like you are more authentic, I would say, in expressing your emotions
Yes.
and expressing yourself. But once you are doing those things in your
Second language.
Yes. Probably that authenticity is somehow missing. I don't know, probably this is your area and you might elaborate or you might enlighten us more on this.
Yeah, it is actually the concept that I'm that I'm moving towards and that I'm drawn into, is the difficulties of expression within a second language, particularly in an academic context, and how when we're all of us, I think that for the most part, many people here, except myself, English is my first language by birth, but my parents speak another language. But I think that when we're interacting and communicating and trying to express our emotions, our state of happiness in an academic setting, I don't know that it's easy to do it within the second language context. And so I was maybe even opening it to everyone that's participating to ask, how do you express your happiness in an academic context? I know we spoke about multitasking on a professional level and the contributions of a workplace setting and how it can be good and bad. But most of us primarily work in an academic context or function in an academic context.
Yeah.
So how does language affect happiness in an academic setting? If anybody has any ideas, I would appreciate it. For themselves, their own personal ideas or experiences.
Once people are stressful, or once people go through stressful situations, they tend to move back to their basics. Now that's why times, and this I have also experienced this.
Yes.
Once you are stressful, sometimes you utter words which probably are from your not the second language, rather the first language.
Yes.
And once people are excited and people are more to me, again, this is based, I don't know, this is not based on the literature, but based on my own common observation or common understanding, that once people, they are more excited, more happy, in those situations, sometimes you see that they utter the words, and you observe this happening around us, that they utter words or they express things which are probably in their
native language.
Yes. This is how sometimes the emotional, like these two extremes, like you are on the extreme of the happiness continuum, and the other side you are on the extreme of this stressful emotional thing, people tend to go back to their basics. This is one thing. The second thing is sometimes we don't find people expressing authentic emotions. There's a concept in which I study in behavior, is emotional labor. Now, emotional labor is that people express their emotions, and they, for example, if you look at these customer front desk,
service representatives. Yes.
Yeah. They always try to be like this, happy, a smiling face, but inside their emotions are altogether different, which means they are doing emotional labor. And again, there's a lot of studies which suggest that emotional labors are bad for health, bad for things, because people, they suppress their emotions. So I think from that perspective, when people sometimes they are not given opportunities to I don't know whether this concept is there or not. Sometimes people are doing this language labor, which means that sometimes they're more comfortable in their first native language, but once they are asked to do something in their second language, I don't know whether that concept is there or not. I'm just trying to create a connection between.
Yes, it's an interesting one that you're making. Yes.
Yeah, then maybe they're doing this language labor and they're just making things up, but internally they feel different. So that is ultimately going to impact the way they behave outside that situation.
You know this, you just said this term language labor. Is that an
Yeah.
expression that you've read, or that an expression that you're linking with emotional labor?
No. This is what I'm just
Linking.
emotional labor.
Yes.
This is not.
Yeah.
This is coming out of my head. This is not.
It sounds about right. It sounds like there's a genuine connection there.
Yeah,
Thank you, Abdul. I really appreciate your thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other question? Okay, thank you all. It was a pleasure talking to you, and please fill the workshop survey about feedback. So please fill the survey. That would definitely help me in improving myself and help me once if I decide to offer the next workshop.
Thank you so much, Dr. Abdul Karim, for the great workshop, and we are looking forward for the future ones. And thank you for your valuable time, and hope to see you soon. Thank you.
Inshallah. Okay, take care, stay safe, best of luck.
Thank you.